It's going really slow. All right. Hello. Welcome. It's Wednesday afternoon. I am Dr. Andrea Herrst, chiropractic physician in Grand Ledge, and I am so excited to be joined today by Melanie McNamara, life coach extraordinaire. We're going to spend just a few minutes today talking about how to hack some of your hormones through life coaching. Melanie, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. So I want to just dive right in because I know we don't have a ton of time this afternoon. I know you're busy and made time kind of at the last minute for us today. So what do you think are some ideas? What do you see people being successful in terms of improving their health when they're working with you?
What I like to do is really work on the mindset piece and the feeling your feelings, like feeling the emotions.
Totally.
And so I have a process I work with clients on reprogramming those urges. So we're not restricting. We learn how to allow and process the urge just like an emotion. And it deconditions that urge. So when you want to eat something that maybe is not on your protocol, you know how to handle it. It's not constant resistance. And then the negative self-talk. So I work with my clients on rewriting that whole script that we have in our heads and kind of, eliminating the diet brain and the things we've told ourselves over the years, the belief systems we have around foods and our bodies and what's normal.
Totally. Can you explain a little bit more? I think you touched on what some of your clients might think an urge is, but so an urge like to eat a specific thing or do a specific habit, like what comes to mind? Like, can you nitty gritty down into like what you mean when you say urge?
Yeah. The beautiful thing is I love to work on weight loss because when you learn how to, like, say you want to lose weight, and you decide on your food protocol and what you're going to eat. And then you see a freshly made brownie on the counter that your daughter made when you weren't looking. And you have an urge. I want to eat that brownie. Mm-hmm. And so an urge is like a feeling. It comes from it's a desire that you create with your thoughts.
Totally.
Right. So brownies are delicious. I want that. It could be as simple as I want that. So you create an urge in your body. And when you just learn to say, oh, I notice I'm having an urge, and just feel that very uncomfortable vibration in your body. That's all a feeling is. That's all an urge is. We're not going to die. It's just a very uncomfortable feeling in our body. And when we learn to just allow it to be there without like restricting, resisting, telling ourselves, you can't have that we get into the mean, punitive finger wagging talk. You can't have that brownie. You don't deserve it. All those things that we've told ourselves over the years. And when we just say, oh yeah, of course I want a brownie, and there's a whole process I go through with that, but it's just allowing that urge to eat the brownie, which is not what you want for your goals, right? Like you set your goal to lose some weight and you establish your big why. Why do you want to do this? And it has to be really compelling. And so, and then so that learning to allow urges translates into, say, your business, and you have to sit down and write a report or something for work, and you get an urge to go watch some Netflix. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. It's just an urge in your body, and you learn how to just allow it to be there and still work towards your goals.
I think that's so key. And, I talk with my patients a lot about just like acknowledging and, like you said, kind of sitting with it. I think so much of our typical culture is like, well, if you feel something, that must mean that you have to do something about it and like take an action. We're such a doing kind of culture. We're not very much of a being kind of culture. And that can be really challenging because then there's like a million and one things to take action with, right? Because there's always a solution that we can buy or eat or drink or, consume in some kind of way to take care of that urge. So I think that's a really key thing to kind of ratcheting down and just being in our bodies. Mm-hmm. And that will for sure have a huge effect on our hormones, right? Because if we're not always searching for that thing to take care of that urge, then we might just self-regulate, right?
Yeah. Emotions and urges are not a problem. It's not a problem.
They're not, but I think we've been conditioned by so many commercials to think that like, oh, I have an urge for a late night snack. Well, for sure I should go drive through that one place and like get their, you know, tasty, deep fried, sugar filled, whatever thing. What do you think are some similarities between your really successful clients? They're obviously working with you, so that's their number one similarity, right? So what else do you think that people who really are able to start shifting their mindset and changing some habits, what do you see that they're doing across the board?
It comes down to a decision and their really compelling reason why, right? I know for years I was up and down the yo-yo dieting thing, and my reason was so that I could be acceptable.
Okay.
So my body could be acceptable to certain people, or, you know, whatever. It wasn't very compelling at the end of the day. It actually made me run, and I used to do what I call revenge eating. So I would, like, you know, resist all week, and then I'd be like 3 o'clock in the morning eating a huge plate of nachos, right? So my successful clients, they make this decision, they have a compelling reason, and they're willing to do the thought work that I teach them and take them through. And they're open to just trying again and failing, right? Failing forward, because we're going to fail and we're going to try again. So they're just really open and willing to do the work, and have that belief ahead of time without having the result, and just really dropping into that belief that this is possible. This is possible. And you have to, if you think when you lose the weight, you're going to feel free and you're going to feel confident and you're going to feel beautiful, I teach them how to feel that way now by the thoughts they're thinking, because that's how we're going to get to our goal. Is we're going to have to think and feel the way we think we're going to think and feel when we reach our goal.
Totally. I think that's so important and such a key message. You know, I think if you look across like a lot of different folks who are teaching this type of information, you know, as thoughts become things, and you have to have the thought first before the thing comes about. And again, I think our culture is so great at saying, well, it should be outside of yourself. You should just like add it on. You know, it's not anything you need to do inside. And I totally agree with what you're saying, in that like, it's got to come from the inside first, and then it will be expressed on the outside. So
like you can, so I always say, like, yes, you can restrict yourself and, you know, be mean to yourself the whole way down the scale, but it's going to feel terrible and it's not sustainable, because you do that, you lose the weight and you're like, I've lost the weight. And you're like, but I still feel like crap. The weight is just a circumstance. You get to decide how you want to think about yourself. And
totally.
Yeah.
I know from doing some background research before we were speaking today, it seemed like you kind of had a pretty serious medical thing come up for you that was an impetus for you to make some of these big changes. What would you say? Do you hope that people are not needing to get to that point where they have that moment of like, oh no, this like big diagnosis came, or the job I lost, or that relationship ended? Like, do some of that work now beforehand?
Yeah, definitely. I always say, like, learning to love yourself and be kind to yourself, that, you know, self-love, the self-compassion, there's no downside to that. And so just deciding that, yeah, I want to make better, healthy choices for my body. Before I I was diagnosed with stage 3 triple negative breast cancer, and triple negative breast cancer, they don't really know what causes it. It's not a hormone induced breast cancer. And I have my suspicions, and not in a judgy way about my past self. I love my past self, but I think it came from a lot of emotions that I held on to. I think it probably came from a lot of over drinking and a lot of overeating habits. And So yeah, I don't want other people to get to that place where it's like, oh, I have to do this because of this medical diagnosis. It's like, I want to do this because I've fallen in love with myself. And this is my one precious life.
I totally agree with that. And, you know, I say similar things to my patients, right? Like, you are worth taking care of now. Like, don't put it off until later when you want to get all of that back. You know, like, enjoy it now. It's kind of, I always think about that, like the person that is like, well, I'll travel, you know, once I retire. And then 1 year into their retirement, they have a major thing happen and they can't travel. It's like, well, you know, let's maybe travel now. You know, maybe now that things are opening up more, right? What do you think are some top 3 ideas that you could share with folks about improving habits? Like, if you just had to say, here's the top 3 things to change some habits and shift some stuff, like right now, you know, before they book a call with you to like really get into that like deep work of learning to love themselves, what would you say?
Yeah. Well, the first thing, well, one thing could be start small. It's okay to start small. And I teach my clients like a 1% level up. So if you just want to eat a little bit less, just start leaving 2 bites on your plate and seeing what those emotions come up when you leave those on your plate. Like, what are the thoughts that come up from that? But just start doing that, or start, you know, walking 10 minutes a day. It doesn't have to be. So often we're like, all right, I'm going to a clean slate. I'm going to start my whole life over again and all of these new habits. It's like, it's okay to start small. So that would be one. Excuse me. Got a little tickle. The other thing, the main thing I teach my clients is stop beating yourself up. Like, if you have something on your plan ahead is another one. Like, write down what you're going to eat ahead of time. So you're using your planning prefrontal cortex and you're not just grabbing whatever in the moment, right? From our primal brain thinks everything's important. So yeah, so plan ahead. And so then the third thing is, if you do overeat, stop beating yourself up. Stop criticizing yourself in your head. So many people think, well, if I don't, you know, if I'm not mean to myself, then I won't stay on my plan. And I want to offer that it's the opposite. Love and compassion and taking care of yourself will motivate you to want to take better care of your body.
Totally. I think all of those are so key. I love the idea of the 1% level up. I'm going to borrow that. And when talking with my patients, you know, I talk with a lot of my patients about 80-20. And I think that can be really true across all kinds of different things. But, you know, that 80% of your time you're on point and 20% of the time you're not, like, you're still super successful, right? But I love the idea of the 1% level up because that's so attainable. And, you know, I also think some people might think that's not enough, right? Like, well, if I only leave 1 bite on my plate, is that really going to make a difference? What do you say to that person? Because I'm sure that's come up with your clients.
Yeah. My first question to people is, what's your hurry? Because if you're in a hurry, it's because you don't like where you're at. And I want to offer to you that that is the hardest way to get to where you want to go. Right? Like, there's not going to be better than here. It's going to be different. And so I would say, well, what's your hurry? And I'd say, well, that 1 bite today, then you can keep leveling it up. Because if you've probably seen those graphs online, like the 1%, and I can't remember what book that's from, one of the habit books. But if you just do 1%, say your goals over here, you do 1% level up every week or every day even, you're going to hit your goals so much easier in a much steadier way, and love yourself doing it.
Is that from Atomic Habits by James Clear?
Yeah, I think it is Atomic Habits.
I feel like that seems really familiar. I love him. I've subscribed to his newsletter for many years. What are a couple of your top books that you tell clients, like, hey, here's like the list of stuff to read when you're not hanging out with me?
Oh my gosh, I have so many. I love, like, Louise Hay has the love, I can't remember what it's called, like the Love Yourself books. Kristen Neff, she does a lot of work on self-compassion. And of course, some of our favorites like Brene Brown, right? Gotta love some Brene Brown, and just any of those books that just help you to get more in tune with that self-love. I feel like I'm a broken record on that, but listen, our relationship with ourselves is the longest relationship we're ever going to have in our lives, right?
Yep.
And if I had a roommate, you've got this brain who likes to talk to you, and it's got the primal and the prefrontal, and you're going to have these roommates your whole life. So listen, they're going to be saying me, if you were living with a roommate that was constantly judging you and critical of you and being mean to you, you wouldn't be very happy. You'd be kicking them out. And I want to invite you to, that they're a part of you, right? They're going to be a part of you. So just be so kind and compassionate with yourself. And so, yeah, there's a lot of different resources on that, but those are some of my top 3.
I love all of those authors. I don't think I've read anything by Kristen Neff, so I'm going to go and research that author and add it to my TBR stack.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts, ideas that you have for ways that folks could be improving their health? How do they get in touch with you? Where can they find you and your work?
Yeah. Well, I have a Facebook business page at Melanie McNamara Coaching. And I do a free 1-hour discovery call. And I just invite someone to come talk to me, tell me everything that's going on with them. I'll share my perspective with them and how working with me could help them. And then I help them just make a really clear decision if they want to work together or not from a very neutral space. I'm there to just offer perspective, right? So sometimes it's not a fit, and I'll let people know that too. And yeah, I feel like I'm a broken record with the just be so much more kind and compassionate with yourself, but I don't think we hear it enough. And celebrate your wins. Like, say someone says, well, 1%'s not enough, and they go all week and they leave the 1 or 2 bites on their plate. Celebrate that, right? That's a win. That's a celebration.
I love that. So there's a cognitive behavioral therapy idea that I talk with my patients about in terms of like overcoming a symptom, right? Whether that's pain or tingling or inflexibility or whatever, is like catch, correct, and celebrate, right? So catch what that negative thought is, correct it. I don't know, correct is not like, they call it the 3 C's, right? So correct is maybe not, it's a little bit more harsh of a word than I like, but just maybe like upgrade that word. That sounds more appealing than correct, right? But like shift it to something else. And then celebrate, like you just were saying, celebrate what your wins are around that, and like recognize like all the strides that you've already made to help improve yourself.
Yeah.
So I love that. I think our work really aligns.
Oh, very much. Like what you just said, like I always say awareness is the first step. So becoming aware of what are those thoughts that you're thinking that, you know, either before you do the overeat or afterwards, what are you saying to yourself? So awareness. And then mine would be like, okay, well, what that thought, is that useful to you? Is it serving you? And do you want to change it? So it's very similar.
Have you read anything by Byron Katie?
Oh, yes.
Of her. Do the work.
I'm right up here. I've got my Judge Your Neighbor worksheet.
Oh, yay. Oh, totally. We have to be friends now. For sure. So we can do our Judge Our Neighbors together and do some work. Yeah. For those of you who don't know who Byron Katie is, she has a great book entitled Loving What Is. And it goes through the 4 questions of doing the work of like, is it true? Do you absolutely know it's true? Oh, help me out here. What's the third one?
Who would you be without that thought?
And then what's the reverse of that? Like flip it over. I'm sure it's on your worksheet.
Oh, wait, first, how would you react? What happens when you believe that thought? Yeah. Right. Then who would you be without that thought? And then you turn it around. Like if you think, if you're with your spouse and you're like, oh, he's so selfish, you know, ask yourself those 4 questions and then turn it around. I'm so selfish. Ooh, or like, so our thoughts always create our results, right? So anything we're thinking is going to show up in the result line. So if we're thinking, I've never been able to lose weight, then we're going to feel kind of hopeless. Right. We're not going to take the actions. And so we're not going to lose the weight.
It's just going to keep coming true.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I am so excited about everything that we just spent the last 20 minutes talking about. And I think that we could keep talking for the next hour.
Yeah.
So I would love if folks who are watching this later, I saw that we had a couple of viewers while we were going. But if you're catching this on the replay, please share some comments, thoughts, ideas, questions that you had for Melanie in the comments below, or check her out. Connect with her on Facebook, or book your free discovery call to see if working with her could really help you start to shift. And we're talking about hormones this week, but really we're just talking about improving our health. Because I think if we have a community of women here in Mid-Michigan, and then hopefully broader, and we're all loving ourselves and improving our health, like what kind of positive impact does that have on our families, on our, church groups, on civic things that we're involved with? Like, how can we help spread that message of self-love and health farther and farther out? And I think this past year has really taught me and so many other people that, like, we have to focus on that stuff first, right? Because then we will really be resilient and thrive. Melanie, do you have any last thoughts for us?
Oh, I think a bunch of things came to my mind. I'm like, let's keep talking, but we'll just leave it at that.
Totally. Well, I think we should schedule this again, and then maybe have a conversation with Megan, because I know she really helps. She has so many awesome ideas, and she really gets me, like, my noodle going. So this might need to be a recurring thing where we just talk again. I'm really thankful for your time this afternoon, and I know that all of our viewers are thinking the same thing. And I hope that we get to connect soon in the future.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was nice of you all to join us. I was going to say,
totally.
Nice to meet you.
Awesome. All right. Well, look forward to more stuff later in the week from some of our other special guests. And please connect with Melanie when you're able to. All right. We'll talk with you guys soon.
Bye.